The Alabama Farmers Federation and the Alabama Farmers Cooperative proudly present Simply Southern with your hosts Jim Allen and Mary Johns.
Hello and welcome to Simply Southern. I'm Mary Johns.
And I'm Jim Allen. 2017 was a year of highs and lows on Alabama farms. Mild, wet weather caused a lot of problems for growers.
We don't have any experience with something like this, and it's been a blessing, and there's been some bad aspects to it also.
We'll also step back in time with Winston County fourth graders during the Living History Day, sponsored by the Houston Historical Society.
It's one thing to, learn about it in a book. It is different when they walk inside that building.
Sidney Phelps of Bonnie Plants is visiting an Alabama resort where guests dine on food grown right there on the property.
But we begin our show with a visit to Athens, home to one of the finest tributes to our nation's military that you'll find in Alabama.
We have everything from the Revolutionary War on up to Iraq, Afghanistan.
What sustains us? Food? Family? Faith? Alabama farmers live those things every day. They conserve our resources, clothe our families, and fill our tables. They cultivate jobs for our communities and values for our future. Farmers grow it all right here in Alabama.
There's no such thing as downtime when you own a farm. This is your land. You tend it and try to get the most from it, no matter the weather or time of day. It's been that way for generations. And for generations, your local quality co-op store has been there for you, with a full range of agriculture supplies and services, from feed to fertilizer, seed to grain storage, and the right hardware for any application. You'll always find what you need, plus friendly, knowledgeable advice at your local quality co-op store. There's one near you.
What would America look like today without the contributions of our military? It's really impossible to imagine. From the brave militiamen at Bunker Hill to the Allied forces storming the beaches at Normandy, the men and women that make up our armed forces fill the pages of our nation's history and the rooms of a former railroad depot up in Athens. I've wandered through a few museums in my time, folks, but this is the first time I've cranked up an air raid siren as part of the tour. It's just one of the countless things you'll see on a visit to the Alabama Veterans Museum and Archives, an impressive tribute to America's armed forces built entirely on public donations. Officially opened in 2002, the beginnings of this vast collection of military memorabilia date back to Athens' commemoration of the 50th anniversary of World War II in 1995.
Our local veteran service officer, Ken David, put the word out that, hey, anybody out there that has any memorabilia from World War II, bring it on down and we'll do a display. Well, he had so much stuff. People, got into their closets and found Daddy's uniform and, medals and just everything under the sun. And after they had the memorial, the remembrance ceremony, nobody really wanted their things back. But they're like, well, why don't we leave those and let people enjoy them, let people see and remember.
You don't have to be a history buff to lose a few hours taking everything in. With contributions from every armed forces branch, the Alabama Veterans Museum is a time capsule filled with the uniforms, weaponry, and countless images from hundreds of years of American military involvement.
We have everything from the Revolutionary War on up to Iraq, Afghanistan. If there's a conflict, a war, then we probably have something a little bit about it. Everything in the museum has been donated, and it's just amazing what people have and what people donate. We like to say that we're the personal side of the military or of war. And we show the stories of the people and what they went through on the home front.
The community spirit that brought all of this together isn't limited to the exhibits. Local veteran volunteers are on hand to give tours and answer questions, and the museum participates in several veteran benefits and events throughout the year, such as their monthly coffee call breakfast.
We'll have coffee, biscuits, gravy, sausage and biscuits, fruit, orange juice, and it's just a place for the veterans to get together and visit with each other. And sometimes they'll have little speakers come in and they'll pass out little tidbits of information about veterans, things like health care.
Around 1.4 million Americans go to work every day to defend our country, many of whom call Alabama home. Showing appreciation for those who serve and have served is what brought the Athens Veterans Museum to life. But it's bringing to life the stories behind all of this history that makes up their mission today.
Educating our future generations is first and foremost what we are all about here. You know, letting the generations that are coming know what was sacrificed for them, for their freedom. It's funny to see how veterans change once they come into the facility also. We have people that never talked about the war before or never discussed what happened to them in the military. They come into our facility, they get with a bunch of other veterans, and all of a sudden these stories just start coming out of them, you know, and I've had many family members say, wow, I never knew that about my daddy, or wow, I never knew that my mom did that in the military.
The museum hopes to add a 7,000-foot expansion, which would include a library and classrooms devoted to science and technology education. To learn more about the museum, visit alabamaveteransmuseum.weebly.com.
One of the neat things they have on display there is a World War I era machine gun. And the museum director has said she thought it would be pretty cool to take some of those firearms that they have out and see if they could, you know, do some target shooting with those things.
Yeah, but then they thought about the liability.
Right, so they haven't done that quite yet. Up next, we see how Winston County students discovered more about the history of their county at an old wooden jail.
The versatile peanut, meat of the earth, friend of the soil, tasty, nutritious, packed with protein. And Alabama peanut farmers nourish some very special things: families, communities, and Alabama's economy. Peanuts. Good for you, good for Alabama.
Home. It's where you take your time. Build the future. Make your memories. Celebrate. Come home. Alpha Insurance.
Support healthy food from local farmers by purchasing a Farming Feeds Alabama license plate. The tag funds education and promotion efforts, including Ag in the Classroom, agricultural scholarships, and youth programs. Get your Ag tag today.
A farmer has to live on faith. We do all we can do, but we can only control so much.
Alabama is the second largest poultry growing state in the nation, so we're trying our best to grow all the corn we can for that.
What we produce not only feeds and clothes all of the United States, but about half of what we make goes on to the world market.
We've been able to improve yields, have some things that can help us produce a better crop. I'm proud of the product we make and proud that I can say I'm an Alabama farmer.
You may have heard of the Free State of Winston, a nickname given to Winston County back in Civil War days, when residents voted not to secede from the Union. That's part of what students learned about recently during a living history event at the Old Houston Jail, located in the former county seat. The kids knew they'd get a history lesson that day, but they never expected to be at the center of a jailbreak. Okay, so maybe the kids didn't really stop a hardened criminal that day, but they did hear interesting stories and historical tidbits from numerous volunteer reenactors at Winston County's Living History event. My captor, Sheriff Ferris, was portrayed by Winston County resident Michael McGuire.
I represent the first sheriff of what was then called Hancock County. It was later changed to Winston County by the people of Winston County in honor of the John Anthony Winston, the first governor. The first sheriff's name was Willis Ferris. He was known as a humanitarian sheriff.
During the Living History event, Sheriff Ferris and his wife gave students a tour of the Houston Jail, the second oldest jail in the U.S. It dates back to 1868, and it sits in the same spot as the original Houston Jail, which housed Confederate and Union prisoners at different times during the Civil War.
This area is very Civil War history rich, and a lot of people just don't realize that. I mean, they hear the Free State of Winston, but they don't realize just how much of Winston County it really entails. It's interesting to be able to see the kids' face when you say, no, right here, and they go, are you serious, here? And that to me is what helps.
The Houston Jail was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1975. The Houston Historical Commission is charged with preserving the property, which the group rededicated in 2008. The jail now serves as the hub of educational events like the Living History Day.
It's one thing to, learn about it in a book. It is different when they walk inside that building, smell the smell, feel the air, see how cramped the quarters are, amazed at what the bathroom was like. And then they begin to think, oh, I wouldn't want to stay here.
But the students learned about a lot more than just life on the inside. They heard captivating stories of life in the late 1800s from local legend Aunt Jenny, sang along to old-time songs, snaked their way through a traditional Native American dance led by members of the Cherokee Nation, learned to identify different flags flown over the county, and squealed with delight at the sound of cannon fire. First Lady Winston, portrayed by Nora Estelle, shared the story of how the county name was changed in honor of her husband, who left his mark on history by starting the public school system.
I think that's the most important thing that he did that I appreciate, because all of us now can get a formal education. And all these students probably we wouldn't be here had he not have started that.
While the event is meant to make learning fun, organizers also hope it instills a sense of pride in the students.
When you're here, hands-on learning, you're just more focused and more interested, as opposed to sitting in a classroom and having a teacher stand up and talk to you about something like this.
That's the biggest thing, is that for them to realize there is history here, for them to understand we need to take care of it, not just today, but in years to come, in decades to come.
We're the second oldest jail in the United States now standing, and of course St. Augustine, Florida is the first one, and we're the second one.
There's all kinds of stuff going on out here,
I see that, and it's fun. Fun for the children.
Thankfully, I was able to post bail so that I could be here today for the show.
Yeah, you better be careful going through Winston County next time. They might put you on a chain gang.
No, I need to watch my step. But now that's just a 2-room jail, and the place where they actually keep all the prisoners, there's thousands of nails in those boards so that nobody could saw their way to freedom.
An old-timey maximum security prison.
Exactly right.
Exactly. After the break, we'll take a look at how last year's unusual weather impacted the state's farmers.
One out of 4 Alabama residents have benefited from the Alabama Cooperative Extension System. Last year, Master Gardener Managed Gardens donated $150,000 worth of fruits and vegetables to food banks, and over 25,000 young people developed math, science, technology, and engineering skills through 4-H. Now what we want to know is, how can we help you?
Soybeans are a very versatile product. We make crayons out of it.
A lot of the combines you see rolling through the fields have a lot of plastic side panels that are made from a soy product.
The soybeans that we grow on our farm mostly goes into chicken feed.
Soybean production in Alabama employs over 10,000 people.
We grow some of the best soybeans in the world.
We go the extra mile to make sure when our name is stamped on it, we know it's the best product we can produce.
Support healthy food from local farmers by purchasing a Farming Feeds Alabama license plate. The tag funds education and promotion efforts, including Ag in the Classroom, agricultural scholarships, and youth programs. Get your Ag Tag today.
Being a catfish farmer to me means carrying on a legacy that my father started about 35 years ago. It's a good way to take care of the land and provide a nutritious product for people all over the world. My name is Mary Quitman Holmes. My sister, my father, and I own this farm, Lawson Catfish Farm, in Perry County, Alabama.
Just about any farmer in this part of the country will tell you that 2017 was a year like few have ever seen before. Above average rain and below normal temperatures combined to make growing a crop extremely difficult. As Kevin Worthington tells us, from planting to harvest, growers faced one challenge after another.
Well, it's been weather that I've never seen during my lifetime.
It's rained about every day.
Alabama farmers are used to hot, dry summers, but the 2017 growing season will go down as one of the coolest and wettest on record. Many producers say at times they simply didn't know what to do to help their crops mature.
We don't have any experience with something like this, and it's been a blessing, and there's been some bad aspects to it also. It's been great for the crops, but with so much cloudy weather and a lot less solar radiation, a lot less heat, so it was great for corn. It's really great for all the crops, but especially with the cotton crop, it's sort of, cotton likes a lot of heat, and so it's really made the cotton crop really late and having issues just trying to get it open.
The Tate family grows cotton, corn, wheat, and soybeans on nearly 6,000 acres in the Tennessee Valley. Mike says the 2017 crops were almost completely opposite of a normal year.
This year, the higher ground is where you're making your best crops as compared to the bottom ground, where normally in a dry year, those are our best crops. It's sort of the opposite of what we usually see. So again, a very unusual year for us, and we're having to, adjust to those changes as we go.
Steve Tanner agrees. He says the unusually wet weather hampered work on his Butler County farm all the way into harvest season.
When you get in the bottom and low spots of the field and where your best corn is, it's just hard to make any leeway because you get bogged up. The bottom will just fall out, and you having to get a wrecker to pull it out because the tractor can't get out there to pull you out. And it's just been a difficult year trying to harvest and get the crop out.
In spite of the problems the weather caused, most farmers are pleased with the crops they've harvested.
It's my best crop yield-wise on corn, probably, and I really haven't got any peanuts. To say the peanuts may surprise me on what I pulled up. They hadn't, they look good, but I don't say great. But I have pulled up, like on higher ground, on some peanuts. They do look great.
Corn crop was excellent, not the best we've ever made, but right up close to it. Soybeans seem to be excellent. The big question mark still seems to be the cotton crop. I don't think the cotton crop is going to be what we thought it was at one time because it just was not enough heat to finish the crop out. But it's still going to be good as long as we can get it open.
In spite of the good harvest, some farmers are still struggling. Drought over the past 3 years caused low yields for some South Alabama growers, so it'll take several more years to overcome the money they lost then. And when input costs like fuel and fertilizer are considered, farmer paychecks are dramatically reduced.
So yeah, we've just made $490 or brought in $490 an acre on the lint, but then by the time you take out your gening cost, we're more like $450 an acre, minus your $400 of your variable cost. Now we're only at $50 an acre, and we still haven't made a tractor payment, land payments, things like that. So we're still farmers still are not making a pile of money, even if we are at 70 to 75 cents on cotton.
Dillard says farmers hope prices will stay at those levels, and Congress is expected to pass a new farm bill in 2018, which could further assist growers. But he says there's really one factor that keeps farmers producing America's food and fiber.
Farmers they do a really good job of staying optimistic, because if you're not optimistic, you're probably not going to be farming.
It's just a blessing that it is what it is, and you know, as a farmer, you deal with it as it comes and try to make the best of whatever it is.
For Simply Southern, I'm Kevin Worthington.
Aside from row crops, there's optimism in agriculture because of new investments in the poultry and forestry industry.
And that's good news, not just for farmers, but for everybody in rural areas, because that's going to create jobs. When Simply Southern continues, Sidney Phelps of Bonnie Plants is touring a garden at an Alabama resort, which allows them to feed guests without leaving the property.
There's nothing quite like sitting down to a home-cooked meal with fresh vegetables from the garden. With Bonnie Plants from your local quality co-op store, you can enjoy the freshest vegetables right from your own backyard. And no matter if you're a raised bed gardener, a rose gardener, or if you farm hundreds of acres, your quality co-op store has exactly what you need to get the most out of your plants. You'll always find what you need, plus friendly, knowledgeable advice at your local quality co-op store. There's one near you.
What we eat, what we wear. It all starts somewhere. And if it's good, it usually starts with a farmer. And that somewhere is right here in Alabama. In a field, in a barn, on a tractor. Right now, there's a farmer starting something good for all of us. And it all starts right here in Alabama.
For more Simply Southern, be sure to follow us on social media. And while you're online, visit our website, simplysouthern.tv.net. Simply Southern will continue in a moment.
We believe a plant should be more than a plant. This one is. It's all you need for your garden to succeed, because it's a Bonnie plant. It represents hundreds of varieties of Bonnie's quality veggies and herbs. But more, it's from generations of Bonnie people who are passionate about sharing their love of gardening with you. Look for this little Bonnie plant and a whole family of plants like it in your garden center. Bonnie Plants, so you'll know how to grow.
Hey folks, Sidney Phelps here with Bonnie Plants. Today we're in Sylacauga, Alabama at Pursell Farms, and I'm joined by John Wesson, the Master Gardener here at Pursell. John, thank you for having us here at the farm today.
No problem.
John, you guys have got an extensive layout here, so tell us about the gardens here at Pursell Farms.
Well, right now we've got about 2 acres in production. We did have 4, but we're scaling it back to 2. I left this part of the garden fallow this year and used the other part for my summer crops. We moved the winter crops here to the raised bed. So that's primarily what we're working with right now. It's a 900-foot raised bed that's 4 feet wide.
Okay, and you're breaking them off in 16 to 24-foot increments, I see, but right now you've got a good mix of crops. We're standing here, we've got some Savoy cabbage, some cauliflower. Tell us about what you've got in the garden right now.
Well, we got 2 different types of cabbage. We got the Bonnie's Best, which I know you'll like that, and of course the Savoy. We've got some garlic that's coming up. We've got some collards. We've got kale, Brussels sprouts, carrots, beets, a few onions, arugula.
So just a good mix of everything that most any traditional home gardener will have for a fall garden or early spring garden.
Right.
But the cool thing is, you know, you're talking about your fall crops here, but you plant pretty much the full line of everything from tomatoes to peppers as the seasons go. But everything you use in your gardens is used here on the farm in some way, shape, or form, whether it be a restaurant, right?
That's correct. We try to give as much as we can to our chef and the kitchen staff here at the farm, where we can utilize a lot of the stuff that we grow. So we try to plant 4 times a year, once in September, and then we'll turn around and plant again in February for our spring crop, and then twice in the summer. So I'm trying to have things in the ground at all times.
Okay, when you're dealing with your spring crop, so first off, we're dealing with raised beds here, so you're using 2x12s, untreated lumber, 4 foot wide, so it's easy to access from either side.
Right.
And then the distance, you've got a pretty good long run. Let's talk about, first off, let's talk about the soil. So the soil that you've got for this, is that coming from the ground here, or are you adding that together in some way?
Well, this soil that's in the raised bed actually came from the core plugs from the greens.
Okay.
That the maintenance people use on the golf course. They'll pull the core plugs out of the greens, the putting greens, and mound them up, and I'll just go get that and put it in the raised bed. It's real loose, so it's really good for root crops like beets and carrots.
Okay.
And it's easy to handle. It doesn't, pack in like a heavy clay would.
And then you're using a drip irrigation line here.
Correct.
Now, are you using it? Is that straight fresh water? Or are you adding any kind of fertilization to that?
Well, we do fertigate. I've got a system set up here where we can fertigate with liquid fertilizer, and most of the water comes from one of our ponds here on site.
Okay. That's really unique that you're using actually the core plugs. You're getting really good nutritious soil. The soil tests are being done on the golf course versus you doing it here in the garden. But this is a great fall garden, and if folks want to get a chance to come check out Pursell Farms, they can go to the website, which is PursellFarms.com.
That's right.
Thank you, John. Folks, if you want to find out more information about what all Pursell Farms has to offer, go to their website, PursellFarms.com. And come back next week, we'll show you how we take these greens and use them in the garden here at Pursell Farms with Chef Andrea.
You can find out more about Pursell Farms online at PursellFarms.com. And of course, BonniePlants.com is your home for gardening information. Now, if you have a question for Sidney, drop him an email at simplysouthern@alafarm.com, and he may answer it on an upcoming show.
That'll wrap it up for this week's show. We appreciate you making time to join us. Next week, we'll meet an expert in aerial acrobatics, but we won't be visiting the circus.
And we'll tell you about a delicious treat that is helping some women get a fresh start in life. Thanks for watching Simply Southern today. I'm Mary Johns.
And I'm Jim Allen. We'll see you again next week.
Simply Southern is a production of the Alabama Farmers Cooperative and the Alabama Farmers Federation.